What is up, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I want to tell you something about one of the best and well-engineered cameras of its time, which until now it's a masterpiece. So join me on the ride while I show you the Voigtlander Bessomatic. The reason why I've chosen to show you this camera is because I am quite addicted to those cameras. I have 3 different ones, all using the same system and all being totally over-engineered. And I have a huge collection of those lenses which go with the system, so I will be showing you tests and reviews of all of them in the next few months. So let's start today with the Voigtlander Bessomatic. The Bessomatic was launched by Voigtlander in 1959, a few years after the 1953 Contaflex and the 1957 Retina Reflex, which all came from Germany. This is by far the biggest and heaviest of these 3 leaf shutter SLR cameras, and it weighs more than 2 pounds or 1 kilogram. The late arrival on the market had helped Voigtlander improve the ergonomic design, taking advantage of previous designs. Nevertheless, it has all the shortcomings found on those cameras: the finder blackout after exposure and the limited range of interchangeable lenses. The Bessomatic is easy to handle and the controls are sound and reliable. The shutter is behind the lens SLR Synchro Compure, as found on its fellow competitors, with the EV cross-coupled shutter speed and aperture rings. The rangefinder is bright and the focusing screen has a split image rangefinder, probably the same as found in contemporary Contaflex cameras. The focusing ring is at the front of the lens. The selenium meter cell window is above the lens, in front of the finder prism, where it out of the way for the light obstructing fingers. The light meter needle is visible to the right in the viewfinder, as is a follower pointer with a small circle at the tip. They are easily brought to coincide using the large aperture control knob under the smaller window rewind knob. The camera has a sturdy wind-on lever at the right-hand side with a flimsy film reminder in the hub. Next to it is the shutter release and the rewind release lever. At the left-hand side is the rewind knob at top of the large aperture knob. A small lever on the left-hand side of the shutter housing have settings for M and X flash synchronization, as well as V for self-timer, shifted when a small button is depressed on the opposite side of the shutter housing. The camera back is opened by pushing 2 small latch buttons against each other using 2 fingers. The rewind knob is fully extended to load the film cassette. The only quite unusual odd thing about this camera is the frame counter, not the readout itself, situated quite conveniently at the back. Below the wind-on lever, but the way in which it is reset. To set it, the film advance sprocket drum next to the take-up spool must be turned using the thumb at the rigid middle part until reaching the desired number. It is difficult, time-consuming and not very practical. Otherwise, the interior is beautifully finished and the film easily loaded. The lenses available for the Bessomatic are quite comprehensive, ranging from 35mm to 350 millimeters, and are considered as being quite of superior quality, but rather expensive second-hand, since not easily found. So guys, now after this short introduction to this camera, let's continue this review with my personal opinions about this camera. So, I have already mentioned that in my opinion this camera was really highly over-engineered. It was one of the last cameras without using any kind of batteries, and so we can speak of the last camera without using electronics. So everything which works in here is purely by mechanic. So that makes this camera really interesting from an engineering point of view. And I now want to show you how over-engineered this camera is. So we have a synchro compure mechanism on this camera, but let's actually tell you what this does. So if you have a look on here, we have two rings. One is the the one with the black plastic things is the one with the shutter times. The next ring is labeled with numbers, and those are the aperture numbers. And then the front ring is the focusing ring. Between the focusing ring and the aperture ring we have a depth of field indicator, which are those two arrows. And those two arrows show the depth of field, and you can see if I turn the focusing ring, it shows from where to where the focus sits. So now let's tell you how to use this camera. So you take your light meter, which is shown right in the screen, and then you set your aperture and your time accordingly for the sun. So the aperture you will move by moving this front dial. So now if you can see, if I turn that, the aperture moves and the focus indicator, the depth of field indicator moves as well. So next thing to do is, so you choose an according aperture. Normally I do it with f8 because it's right in the middle of the aperture range, and then you look through your viewfinder, and then you will see the times. So you adjust your, so you put your time in. Say let's have we are on a 60th, and now you twist your aperture to whatever the light meter says. Maybe now we are at 60th f8, and then you are done. You just have to do this one time for each sun setting. So if you work with the same light, you have to do that once. But now what you do is, if you want to change the times, you just twist the times and the aperture moves accordingly. So you set it once, and then you just play around with your times, and the aperture will set itself up. And by that you will see the depth of field indicator working as well. So we start at 60th and at aperture 8. So if we try to go down the aperture, we will get up the speed. So we are at 125th and f5.6, or a 250th at f4, or at a 500th at 2.8. So you set it once, and then you just choose your times accordingly to which depth of field you would like to have, which is really convenient. It's an awesome system, and it works really nice. You adjust it once, and then you set and forget it. Really nice and really ahead of time. It's sort of an aperture priority. Really nice. So the next thing is, let's talk about the usage of this camera. So the mechanism to open this camera is quite simple. You have those two latches right here and right here. You press them in, the back door opens, and we are greeted with a really well engineered film holder. You put your film in here, pull it up to the other side, reset the counter, and on we go. So right above we have the frame counter, which works by using this lever, and then you just press the shuttlecock, and there you go. So let's talk about the specifics of this camera, which make them quite unique. And you will see that if you release the lens. You do that right here. You press down this little knob, and then you twist the lens to release it. So there you have it. This, by the way, is one of the standard lenses. It's the 50mm f2.8 Color Scopar X from Whitelender. A really great little lens, and there you see it. Those lenses are so small but they have one problem. If you try to adapt them to modern glass, you need to have a special kind of adapter, because the aperture control isn't on the lens. You just have those two sliders, one here and one here. One moves the aperture and one moves the aperture and the depth of field indicator. You can see that. So you need a special kind of adapter, because the aperture control is right here on the camera. So what we have here is a leaf shutter. So if you cock this here, the front leaf opens, the mirror comes down, and the back plate went on. So there's quite a lot happening in here. I will show you that. Let's open the back. So now you can see the back is down, but the leaf is still shut. So if I cock it, you see this flap coming down, while on the other side, I'll show you that, the leaves open and the mirror comes down. And now if I press it, the leaf close, the mirror flaps up, and the back comes back down. There we go, and that is how this camera takes pictures. So that leaves you just with one problem: the viewfinder. To have a look through the viewfinder, you need to cock this shutter. So now you can see through the viewfinder because of the mirror and the opened leaves. So if you want to take if you're not sure if you want to take a photo, you have a problem, because you have to activate the shutter, and then you will take a picture of something you don't like. So you really have to be good at knowing how a shot will look beforehand. So yeah, that's not really convenient in my opinion, but yeah, what will you do? So you automatically sometimes will have to take shots if you don't want to leave your camera stuck at the wide open setting. And yeah, that's not really convenient. Another thing is, this camera is hugely heavy. Taking this with you around is like on a strap is like having a brick hung up on your chest. So it really is really hard, but it gives you a really nice feel. The viewfinder is really bright, and it's quite easy to focus because of this. You have a circle in the middle and it's split up, and you line it up in the center. So it's really easy, it's really convenient, but really heavy and really over-engineered. And that's another problem. If something goes wrong in those cameras, they are a nightmare to repair. You have to look at this camera, it has to work. When it's not working, you can't buy it, because it's really hard to repair. So guys, this was my review of this really awesome camera. I really do adore it, and I like the precision and the engineering, but it has a few downsides. But if you want to pick the highest stand in engineering, then this camera is for you. And it feels really amazing, and I hope you have a good one. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.